There are books that breathe and bleed. Stories that don't ask to be read but rather felt like wind on skin or the absence of someone who once loved you deeply. The Emperor of Gladness is not just a title, it is a contradiction. A war waged quietly in the name of joy, a lie told lovingly, a letter never mailed. It is Ocean Vuong painting pain in the hues of beauty until it almost fools you. Almost, this is the kind of story that doesn't begin at the beginning but somewhere in the middle of an unspoken memory that's been humming behind your ribs since childhood. A boy lost in the murmur of two languages, a man rebuilt from silence. And the emperor is no royal at all, but a boy who mistook survival for a crown. We begin in Hartford, not a city of dreams but a graveyard of inheritance. The narrator, a named delicate brown-skinned, with the remnants of Vietnamese lullabies, still tucked in the folds of his English, grows up the son of a woman who fled war with a baby strapped to her chest and memories she couldn't bear to name. His mother, Lan, is not tender. Her love is fierce, blunt. It comes in the form of food. She cannot afford in sacrifices that look like yelling but mean I want you to live. The narrator watches her scrub other people's floors until her hands crack and bleed, and still she never cries, because crying, in her world, is wasted breath. And breath is precious when you've seen what bombs can do. The story is told like a confession, not to God, but to the boy the narrator once was, or maybe the man he is afraid of becoming. The pages bleed poetry, not in structure but in essence. Scenes do not unfold in linear time. Instead, they flutter in and out, like the moths his grandmother believed were ghosts of the dead returning. The narrator is haunted, not just by his family's past, but by his own tenderness. He is soft in a world that equates softness with danger. He is queer in a language that does not have the words for what he is. At age 10, he sees a boy named Elijah at school and feels something shift in his chest. It's not love yet, but it's the seed of it, the knowing. That moment marks the beginning of his long, aching journey through boyhood and shame. His mother catches him watching a boy once, and the slap across his face is less about punishment and more about fear. She knows what the world does to boys like him. She'd rather hurt him herself than let the world do it worse. He doesn't understand that then, only later. The Emperor of Gladness is not just the narrator, it is his armor, the version of himself he creates to survive. He becomes the boy who smiles through pain, the teenager who writes poetry in the margins of math books, the young man who kisses boys in secret and then avoids their eyes in daylight. In college, he studies literature not because he wants to write but because he wants to be understood. He hopes that if he reads enough of other people's grief, he might finally make sense of his own. Then comes Leo. Leo is everything the narrator is not. Blonde, confident, American in the way. Whiteness allows a person to belong without explanation. They meet in a writing workshop. The narrator reads a poem about his mother washing the blood off her feet after walking across Laos. The room is silent. Leo looks at him and says, "That was beautiful." The narrator wants to scream. Because it wasn't beautiful, it was survival, but he smiles anyway. The Emperor of Gladness, at work again. Their relationship unfolds like a bruise. First, slow and tender, then deeper, then painful. Leo loves the narrator but cannot understand him. Not really. He asks too many questions about the war, about what it means to be both Vietnamese and American, but fully neither, about the scars that aren't visible. The narrator tries to explain, but language fails him, or maybe he fails language. Either way, they drift, and when Leo leaves, it is not dramatic. It's just quiet, like a door gently closing behind you. After Leo, the narrator spirals. He stops writing. He drinks too much. He starts calling his mother again, but not saying anything of importance. Just asking if she's eaten. She says yes, even when she hasn't. They have always spoken in this code of survival. One night, drunk and grieving, he walks into traffic and survives, just barely. The doctor tells him he was lucky, but he doesn't feel lucky. He feels empty, and that emptiness becomes the turning point. He goes back to Vietnam, not because he wants to, but because he needs to. Because there is a version of himself buried in the soil. There, boy his mother left behind. A boy who needs to be mourned. In Saigon, he meets his uncle who takes him to his grandmother's grave. The old woman who once told him the moon was God's eye, watching over those who had no country. He kneels by her stone, and for the first time in years he cries. Not the pretty cinematic kind of crying. The raw animal sound of a wound being named on. In Vietnam, he learns to listen again. He talks to strangers, eats soup on the street, writes poetry on napkins. He meets a man named Dai, who does not ask him to explain himself. They walk together in silence, and that silence says more than any poem ever could. Dai becomes his anchor, not a lover. Not quite, but something steadier, a reminder that he is still alive. That being broken does not mean he is unworthy of belonging. Returns to America changed, not healed. Healing is not the point, but softened, more whole. He starts writing again. He publishes a collection of poems under the name The Emperor of Gladness, and people ask if it's satire, if it's ironic. He just smiles. Because he knows what it really means. It means choosing joy even when it hurts. It means loving your mother even when she cannot say I love you. It means kissing a boy even if he'll never call you back. It means surviving and calling that survival something beautiful. The final chapter is a letter, not addressed to anyone, or maybe to everyone. In it, the narrator writes, I used to think being queer was a punishment, that every bruise was proof I had done something wrong. But now I know the body remembers even what the mind forgets, and my body remembers joy. My mother's laughter when I sang off key, the smell of pho on Sunday mornings, the heat of Leo's hands in the dark, all of it. I am not the Emperor of Gladness, but I am his heir. I am what remains. And sometimes, what remains is enough. The book ends not with a conclusion but with an opening, a breath, a silence, like the space between two stanzas, full of ache and possibility. The Emperor of Gladness is not a plot-driven novel. It is a meditation, a mosaic, a love letter to broken boys and the mothers who cannot say I love you but mean it with every breath. It is Ocean Vuong at his most intimate and most devastating. Each word is a hand reaching out. Each page, a mirror. You don't just read this book, you live inside it, and maybe if you let it, it will live inside you too. Link in description.